The following program was recorded on an earlier date for presentation at this time.
You disintegrated Einstein.
Calm down, Marty. I didn't disintegrate anything. The molecular structure of both Einstein and the car are completely intact.
Where the hell are they?
The appropriate question is, when the hell are they? You see, Einstein has just become the world's first time traveler. I sent him into the future. 1 minute into the future, to be exact. And precisely 1:21 a.m. in 0 seconds, we shall catch up with him at the time machine.
Wait a minute, Doc. Are you telling me that you built a time machine out of a DeLorean?
I've been working some long days, straight into some long nights, but my mind keeps drifting away to those sweet Michigan delights, where my friends are all waiting, no need for hesitating, don't worry about a thing, don't have a fear, 'cause happy hour don't start till you get here, so pull up another chair and grab a beer, 'cause happy hour don't start till you get here.
From the great state of Michigan in the American Midwest, it's time for good beer, great friends, and pure 100% fun. This is Taverncast.
Welcome back to the bar. Grab a beer and pull up a seat. This is Taverncast. I'm Bill.
I'm Mike.
I'm Jen.
And I'm Bryce.
And that's everyone. Check us out on iTunes, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Google, MySpace. Is MySpace even around anymore? That's not even
Yeah, it is, but we're not on MySpace.
We should be. All the cool kids are on MySpace from what I hear.
We're on AOL and stuff.
Actually, MySpace turned into it's like a music hub now, isn't it?
Is
like
it?
Like independent music artists use it now?
Interesting. I don't know.
No.
Isn't that Pinterest?
They did 3 or 4 years ago. I don't know if they still do.
Pandemonium,
I actually don't know. Is it still around?
Spotify.
I assume it's still open.
No idea. I never go to it, so.
Catch us on Instagram and Snapchat. And for those of you that are looking for Grindr, you can find, I don't know who. But search Taverncast.
Apparently. You are the only one on with an official Grindr account.
You should search Taverncast on Grindr.
You can find Bill on Grindr at www.grindr.com/InfernalWilliam.
Yes.
Remember, swipe left.
You should do a search for those terms on that
Inflamed William.
on that app and find out exactly what comes
Sure,
up.
there's a cream for that.
Scientists, writers, Hollywood, and everyday people have dreamed about it for centuries. Time travel. Time travel. Is it possible? Where would you go? What would you even want to try? That's tonight. But first, what are we drinking?
When you hear the tone, it will be exactly time to get a drink. Just a little drink. Any little drink will do.
It really goes down easy
Before the evening ends.
All right, tonight we have a delightful beer. It is the Stone Brewing Company Arrogant Bastard Ale. And you know what? We had a beer like this on the show a long, long time ago, but I think that one was Dirty Bastard.
Really?
Ale.
Yep.
Way back.
Like ODB?
Like the first couple of shows.
Yeah.
This one's interesting, though,
This is
because
ABA.
it says... I can't read it. I was asking for my phone so I can light it up so I can read it.
Oh.
I'm looking at the bottle and I'm blind. I can't read what it says. This one's got an interesting thing in the back. It says...
It's an aggressive beer.
It says, Bryce, you're old and your eyesight can barely make this out. And I am not kidding about that. Holy crap. Can you read that?
Arrogance.
I can read it. All right. It says.
Remember the show last time about being over 40? This is one of those other things that changes.
In my
you can't
day-
see anything when it's dark.
In my day, I used to be able to read the back of beer bottles.
Oh, you know what?
They were
There's an
delightful.
easier way to do this. On the back of the beer bottle it says, and I'm not gonna read the whole thing. It says, "This is an aggressive ale. You probably won't like it. It is quite doubtful that you have the taste or sophistication to be able to appreciate an ale of this quality and depth. we would suggest that you stick to safer and more familiar territory. Maybe something with a multi-million-dollar ad campaign aimed at convincing you it's made at a little brewery, or one that implies that their tasteless, fizzy, yellow beverage will give you more sex appeal.
Hey, what's up with that? Sort of arrogant when you
bastards, all of them.
This reminds me of that commercial that's floating around right now for some kind of alcoholic apple cider thing, where there's this dude in the front and he's tasting a beer and he's like, ooh, I'm getting Oaktown. And he goes, I smell leather. And then like the thing drops from the sky and explodes as frou-frou beer. But I look at that commercial and I'm like, you're talking about me. I'm the guy who is like, welcome to Oaktown. I'm like, screw you guys and your fake
Give me a
alcohol
Budweiser.
drink. Budweiser, you're off the show. So, Arrogant Bastard Ale is from Stone Brewing Company there in California. It is an American strong ale. I don't think in all of the Taverncast that we're aware of or on Tap we've ever had a American strong before.
What is an American strong? I mean, like, why is it? Is it alcoholic content?
I know it has similarities to barley wines and old ales, which we have had. Those were the ones we had at Ashley's that we liked. Some are barrel aged, so this is going to probably be a pretty, I would guess, malty and strong ale.
Yeah, I would say that this is probably going to be an aggressive beer. I'm going to probably say I won't even like it.
Yeah, you know why you wouldn't like it? Because you're one of those guys on that apple cider commercial drinking that apple cider.
You're from LA.
I really don't have the taste or sophistication to be able to appreciate an ale of this quality and depth.
No, you don't.
This might as well be brewed in Detroit.
All right, well, cheers, everybody. We'd clink, but we're using plastic. What? You haven't even opened it, Bill?
Mine's like...
Dude, how long have you been on the show? Get the beer open. You know how this goes.
Sorry.
It's his first day.
Hold on, I've got to pour.
So very good at this. Good, because we needed those sound effects. We pre-poured.
This thing is huge.
Cheers, everybody.
Prost.
Clink, clink, clink.
Ooh, daddy like. Actually, it's really interesting. It's malty and then it's super bitter.
Yeah, it's smelling it. I was like, oh, it's gonna be really malty and sweet, and then I taste it, and I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's not. Run away.
It's not at all.
So we have
It's really strong. Wow. It's super cloudy. Are you guys seeing the same kind of cloudiness?
No, because we have them in red leftover paper cups from Christmas with a reindeer and a peppermint stick on
I mean, it really is a nice color. It's not. It's between like a dark brown and an amber, but it's very cloudy. It's got to be all the hops, wouldn't you say?
So we got Hawk Julie in the studio listening in to the recording, and Hawk Julie is Hawk Mike's significant other. Hawk Julie, what do you think about the beer?
Julie.
I have to say, I actually really like it. Apparently, I like a man's beer. I don't know.
She done brung it. Do you like it? Usually don't like bitter beer.
It's not bad.
I actually don't like bitter beers usually, but I kind of like this one.
So does that
I can get over
Bryce? Does that mean you also like a man's beard?
A man's beard? Yes, I do.
Sorry, I didn't hear that correctly originally.
I can get over the hoppiness with the strength of the alcohol. I'm good with that.
I gotta say, this is one of the
Everything's better with the
I may
strength
have a
of the
problem.
alcohol.
I may have a problem.
I think this is one of the better beers we've had on the show. It's also one of the more bitter beers that we've had on the show. But yeah, it's really drinkable.
You know, Beer Advocate gives this a 97% rating, which is in their world-class category on the site.
Really?
Yeah. The world-class example of the style, they say.
It's good because it is what it is. It's not trying to be something it's not. For example, it's not like, it doesn't have like crazy maple.
Can you say that again?
Well,
thanks.
Can you clarify?
Was that more or less significantly relevant to our conversation?
A lot of the other beers that we have got like this sort of gimmick to them, or at least I know it's probably not a gimmick, but in my mind it's a gimmick. Like it's either got this one tastes like bacon, this one tastes like celery, this one tastes like you've infused it with some kind of fruit.
This one tastes like beer.
It does. This one tastes like beer, like hop. Yeah, exactly. I like it.
So we will recommend Stone Brewing Company Arrogant Bastard Ale. It gets at least, it gets 3 thumbs up in the studio and 1 thumbs down.
I give it.
Jen, what don't you?
I give it.
Go ahead.
How about I give it a plain? Because honestly, I think their Dirty Bastard actually was more
malty.
Yeah, definitely more malty, more fun to drink.
Well, all this proves is that there are 2 men in the studio and 2 little girls.
Don't call Julia, man.
Jen, why don't you like this beer? Do you not like hoppy beers, or is this just...
I'm actually not a big fan of hoppy beers, and I don't know. I mean, like, I agree with what you're saying. It has beautiful color to it, and it actually is, it's very crisp and clean, which I do actually enjoy that aspect of it, but I'll be honest, the aftertaste to it to me is, ugh. I feel like a skunk is in my mouth.
It's like an ashtray. It's like you swallowed an ashtray.
Not attractive.
I think it's a party in your mouth.
Do you like bitter stuff usually, Julie?
Yeah, I do.
Heck yeah.
Well, look who she's with.
Where are you going with that?
Mortar money.
Cut that out.
By the way, too, Stone is the company that makes Ruination IPA. Any of you guys ever had that?
No.
Ruination is famous. Ruination is famous because it's got some of the highest IBU values in an ale.
What's IBU?
Or an IPA.
I don't know if I've ever had it, though.
Yeah, we probably would hate it. Like, if this is a regular beer and it's as bitter as this, can you imagine
is
what...
strong.
I know, but can you imagine, though, this is a regular beer from their collection, so...
Oh.
Can you imagine what a high IBU beer... That's bitterness units, by the way. It's called Ruination, for God's sake.
Dear God.
I don't know. This is growing on me, actually.
I like it. The more I drink it, the more I like it. More.
So, these are the days of our lives.
Like sands through the hourglass, so are the days of our lives.
All right, so I'm just going to kick it off. I'm going to start with me because I'm in ranting mode. So,
this is going to be cool.
Brace yourselves.
I've been.
Are we going politics?
Gird your loins.
No. So I've been trying to go. You've been using a desktop here at work, a desktop computer, and Mr. Monin over here has been doing all this great stuff where he takes his laptop out and he works remotely, like all over the place, and
literally everywhere,
all over the world. And so, inspired by his exploits, I've been like, you know what? It's about time I buck up and I get a laptop again. It's been several years since I've had one, so I take my time. I decide not to go to the Apple store, but instead I go to a local place that specializes in Apple computers, and I go, this will be better, because my theory is that if you go to like a local place and not the Apple store, you might get like better service, and you might get like, a better warranty or hands-on.
Oh, wait, does that local place have 170 billion in cash too?
So I go to this local place that's an authorized Apple retailer a month ago, and I order a MacBook Pro a month ago, and I asked for one thing to be changed, which is it had a 1 terabyte drive in it, and I wanted a 2 terabyte drive.
Oh, look at Mr. Fancy Pants.
The way I originally understood it is that I was going to send this I was going to get this laptop. It was going to come from Apple. They were going to crack it open, put the 2 terabyte drive in, and deliver it. And when they first tell me, it's like it's a week and a half to 2 weeks. Great.
You realize all they did was they went on the Apple site and they configured it and ordered it.
Yeah, right? That's exactly what happened. And at week 3, which would have been last week, I called and said, "Where's the laptop?" So they tell me, it says, we don't know. It says that it's in manufacturing.
That's all they did.
Yeah, that's
and
totally
I'm like,
what they did.
What does manufacturing mean? Does that mean it's in China somewhere? I mean, like, how long? If I went to the Apple store, I probably could have walked out of the store with it. So I'm trying to be patient, right? Laptop finally gets here today. I actually have a need for that laptop. This particular weekend, I've got a projector. I need to project something with it. I need it, right? It shows up. I'm like, hallelujah, the laptop's here. I bring it home.
1 terabyte.
I unbox it. I'm ready to sync it up with the old hard drives and everything. Turn it on, and this is what the fan sounds like the second I hit power. It's like a weed whacker. It's like a gas-powered weed whacker with like a deck of cards stuck in the fan. So,
That's
I try
not
to power
good.
it down. I try to...
Bryce, I can tell you right now, I've been using Macs for years. That's not good.
No.
These guys built it for you. They tested it, right?
No, apparently not. No. So I got to take it back now. And you know what I'm afraid they're going to tell me?
They're just going to send it back to Apple Care.
It's going to be like 3 weeks again for me to get the laptop
It'll
back.
probably be longer than that.
I'm curious.
So the moral,
what premium are they charging you for this excellent service?
Yeah, exactly.
So
I saved about $100.
I was going to say, the moral of this story is do not go to the mom and pop store. Do not favor the little guy. Do not support America. America. Support big business. Thank you, everybody. Good night.
It kind of is. Like, I'm really pissed. I'm just like, I've never had an experience this bad with any Apple product. And it's all due to the fact that I didn't go through Apple. I decided to, like, give business to some local place. So let this be a lesson to you. Service freaking matters.
Service does matter. And
Absolutely.
So I'd be curious what the thought was that they were going to give you as far as service. Like, what were you going to win by doing that?
Okay, so the thought revolved around an idea completely divorced from computers, which is, and I was talking about this last show, if you go out and you buy yourself a lawn tractor, if you go to Home Depot or Lowe's or Menards or whatever and you get a tractor, you're going to get a tractor that the people there don't know really what they're selling. They're just guys that are hired to work in Home Depots. Maybe some of them do, maybe they don't, right? But usually you don't get really good service with them. If you bring it back to Home Depot, they're not servicing it there. They're sending it off someplace. So you don't get any help there. You pay pretty much the same price, or maybe even a little bit more at the big box stores, but you get no hands-on service with it, right? So if you go to a place like a local, like lawn and garden supply shop or a farm store or something, the people there actually they know what they're doing. They take the time to like walk around the thing and show you, and if you bring it back to them, they usually have all these plans where they'll bring it out to you, and they'll come get it, and they'll service it, and they'll, do all this kind of stuff. So I think in the back of my mind, I'm thinking, I know of this little place. They're an Apple reseller. If I have any problems with it, it'll be better to deal with them one-on-one instead of having to go to the Genius Bar in the mall and dealing with Apple.
You wanted to feel the love.
That was a bad idea, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I mean,
you essentially went to Home Depot, though.
Right. The computer's not a tractor, and basically they just Home Depot'd it back to you.
Right. It's all. I mean, literally, if what Mike is saying is true, and they just went on the website, I mean, anybody could have done that.
I could have done that. I could have ordered it myself.
But you know what? It works.
Right to your house.
Amazon would have sent it to me or whoever.
But you know what, though? The concept should work, right? I mean, there does seem to be a market for the small mom and pop computer store that's going to give you some personal attention. You just didn't go to that one, right?
The problem is, when he called, I asked, like, last week, I said, well, where's your computer? Because it's been a couple of weeks. And he's like, I don't know, I should call. They didn't know. They were like, oh, yeah, we're working on it. The guy's trying to reformat the disk.
Oh, so they're
like, they had, but they totally
No,
BS.
they were totally
They
BSing.
had no idea
This
who
came
he
thing
was
sealed.
when he called.
It came sealed from
I know,
the
that's what I'm
factory.
saying.
I don't even know. See, this is the thing. I haven't had to have it on long enough yet because of the fan issue that sounds like it's nicking against some wire or something in there, right? And I can't take it apart because I'll break the warranty, right?
And so what you're talking about right there is the reason why these shops large. So there's a reason for these shops. Like when I was at U of M, we had a local Mac repair shop that you'd take your computer in if you're having problems. They would actually take it apart. They would replace parts and stuff like that. But just like cars these days, it's very difficult for anybody who's not like a very professional understanding with all the manuals and all the computers and all the tools, which usually means send it to the dealership or send it, to someone who's very good. Like, these stores are obsolete now. They're just going to send it out to Apple.
You know what's really bugging me too is because I haven't had it on. I haven't had it on long enough to get into the OS and check it. I don't trust they actually put the extended drive in there.
Well, I bet Apple did.
I just don't trust them. How am I supposed to know? The fan isn't even working. The whole thing, the whole package cost nearly $5,000.
You wanted to get into the open source, the OS.
The OS.
Yeah,
the OS.
The OS.
Dude, you don't even know what URL is. Just
significant.
Shut up. No one cares about what you're saying right now.
The only second.
So that's my rant of the week. Mr. Monin, you said you had some interesting things this week.
We had an interesting week. We actually got a new dog.
Yay!
It came home Friday. We now have a little golden doodle dog named Messi, M-E-S-S-I, like the soccer player.
Good name.
Okay, so I didn't get this.
That behavior or what?
When he first posted this on Facebook and I saw the dog, and it's like I think it was Hawk Julie who posted the dog picture, and I'm looking at Messi and I'm like, is this some Italian name? Like, what does Messi mean? What is this? And then it finally hit me. You name
Lionel
all your dogs.
Messi.
Zizou
Probably
was
one
the
of
soccer player.
My old dog's name was Zizou, named after Zinedine Zidane, named after a very, very talented and excellent soccer player.
Oh.
So, arguably, Lionel Messi is probably the best soccer player we may ever see in our lifetime. So.
Ronaldo?
Yeah,
Ronaldo?
I know. I agree. Yeah. I love, what's his name?
Yeah.
Right. It's a Labradoodle?
It's a Labradoodle because Hawk Julie's got a little bit of a... I'm sorry, a golden doodle, as I was...
I was going to say Julie's like part golden. Yes. I'm like, no, she's not. She's blonde. There's a difference.
Wow. No,
just wait till she's on the phone or on the show with a mic, and Mike won't be doing so well.
So Hawk Julie's got a little bit of dog allergy, so we figured we'd go with the doodle part of it. I really wanted a golden, so...
Oh, man.
We went with
Good
the golden
compromise.
doodle. We made a Frankenstein. And so along with that, we also fenced in the yard because you got a puppy, you got to be able to put him in the backyard and have him not run away. Well, part of that was an electronic gate that we put across the driveway because the way our yard is set up, you basically got to fence the driveway too. So we did a lot of thinking, and I worked with a carpenter buddy of mine, and we put this gate together, created it, and got a big opener, like a farm opener, like an extender thing that...
Across the driveway?
Yeah, it goes across the driveway.
Really?
So it makes it look like a castle. It's kind of cool. The problem is, somebody pointed out, they're like, well, what are you going to do in the winter? And I was like...
Does it swing?
Open? Yeah, it swings.
Oh, no.
so there's like about 2 3/4 inch clearance under it.
Oh,
and there's a wheel that runs on the ground because the gate's heavy.
Yeah.
So...
anyone in the rest of the world listening to this who doesn't live in a climate where it snows is going, I don't get it.
Yeah.
Picture a door in your house, and on the other side of the door is like 2 feet of marshmallow fluff. Now trying to open the door.
No, how about slush? How about when it's like 8 inches of slush?
Yeah.
So,
could be 8 inches of gravel.
Yeah, So now I'm gonna be like, okay,
walk out the front door with your shovel.
I think there's some things I can do to the thing, but I was trying to brainstorm. I was like, maybe I can put like a flamethrower on the bottom of it, so you flip on the flamethrower and it just clears it as it goes.
Can you get one of those gas fireplaces and just flip it upside down so
Probably.
that when you get a remote control,
I can
it'll just melt everything.
I can just the thing's stronger. I can strap a propane tank to it.
Oh, I like
with
it.
A couple of nozzles and just like spray it out.
Is it too late to consider that lava moat you were looking at?
Castle, you need a moat. Hello.
Aren't there driveways in Michigan that are heated though? Like they can run electrical wire into the pavement.
Yeah, but heated driveways and 2 feet of snow.
Yeah,
not gonna work.
It doesn't really work.
The snow laughs at the driveway.
We had one when I was growing up. We had a heated driveway, and it basically what it did is it melted most of the snow. The rest of it turned into ice, and then the big like giant river down the steep driveway formed like a gigantic ice dam on the bottom.
And
of the
that's why
driveway.
Bryce got sued.
Sounds
They
lovely.
Don't live in that house anymore.
So it's a golden doodle. I think my folks actually have a Labradoodle, which is a Labrador Retriever and a doodle. But I've seen other ones because we were looking into that as well. And they've got like German doodles, pit doodles, boxer doodle. I think they even have a Chihuahua doodle, which just goes to show a poodle will have sex with anything, really.
Late night music with more than just a ration of passion.
Tonight's topic, time travel. So what we want to talk about here is, could time travel actually even be possible? And if it was possible, like what kind of technology would it require? You think we'll see something like that ever in our lifetimes? And
well, there still are some DeLoreans.
That's true.
I saw one driving around.
It doesn't mean their time, Mike.
What?
Just FYI, dude. That's a movie.
Flex capacitor.
It's a movie. What do you guys think? Time travel even possible?
You know, I looked this up a little bit on the internet because that's where all the answers of human knowledge lie. And there was like an article of a guy in England that sort of referenced that. Sorry, I'm on the wrong computer now. But he referenced that, Einstein's theory of relativity suggests that time travel to the future is possible. And I think that's not too far-fetched, right?
He said to the future? Really?
Yeah, going to the...
Because usually it's the going into the future that I read that is the hard one.
No.
It's going into the past they think you could do.
No, I think you've got it reversed. You go into the future just
Your
by...
mom's got it reversed.
You do. You get because...
Wait, I'm time traveling right now.
But there was a crazy guy in England in 2013 that sort of surmised that you could go back in time, and it was just this weird, funky way of saying, like, you'd have to create a wormhole and then tie the wormhole to a spaceship's first moment in time as it travels through space, and you go to a certain place and you come back, but not through the wormhole. It would take you less time than it took you to get there, because the time in the wormhole is different. So you'd end up back at Earth in like 3 months before you left.
So this is all very scientific.
It was more like mathematic. It was like a mathematical equation to prove that you could go back in time, but it seems...
Is he saying though that the wormhole is tied to the ship and whatever original point that the ship left from? Like, is it a machine? Like, is there some sort of like energy hub or power plant or something?
Correct. There's like you have to create some kind of a... Gosh darn it! I wish I had the article in front of me. But the gist of it is that you have to create a wormhole, right? And there's a principle. There's a scientific principle that it's like the Heisenberg principle or
the Heisenberg principle of wormholes.
Of wormholes, correct? Right?
Yeah.
So the Heisenberg principle.
So full of shit.
Oh, you don't know?
No, I know. It's on Star Trek.
The Heisenberg principle of wormholes is something along the lines that you have to create an event that creates a lot of energy very fast. I'm sure I'm getting that wrong, but it's something like that.
No, that's right, because the problem with wormholes is they know theoretically they're possible to make. The issue is generating enough power.
That's it.
So you have to create a singularity.
Right.
Yeah, singularity, and that's like a black hole or a sun imploding or something like that.
Yep, you got it.
Is this what they're trying to do with the collider?
Yes.
Well, that's what some suggest could happen. That's one of the possible, like,
so if they run the collider,
0.00001% chances of failure.
They'll open a wormhole and we can all go back in time.
That's one possibility.
And save the Earth.
The other possibility is they could open a portal to one of any number of dimensions, and either we can go through or bad things can come out. Right.
But the thing is that the travel back in time they were surmising is limited to the invention of the machine that takes you back in time. So you couldn't go back to a point in time that was before the invention of that machine. So, for example, Stephen Hawking did an experiment where he broadcast something on like latitude and longitude and on a certain date to any time travelers in the future to have a time traveler convention, and no one showed up. So
it's basically like you need a beacon in the past of some kind.
Well, you'd need to have the technology in the past to be able to get forward again.
No, can't you just bring the technology with you from the future?
It depends on exactly how you do the transmission. Like, how are you actually... This is one of the things that I was talking about. I was thinking about when we were talking about this subject is... What are you actually doing? Are you taking a particular object and moving it through space and time? Or are you actually having to fold and change space and time, and the object actually stays stationary? What's actually changing? Is it? Do you know what I'm saying?
I do, but listen. So
you just blew my mind.
If you look, if you do it, here's my favorite part. If you go on Google and you do a search of "is it possible?" here are the things you will find. Is it possible to get pregnant during your period? Is it possible to grow taller? Is it possible to fly? Number 4, is it possible to go back in time? Number 5, is it possible to get a bigger butt? So we see the importance
it's in
of
the top
time.
5.
I've been working on that.
5.
That's definitely possible.
When it becomes the first search completion term on Google, that's when we know time travel has become possible.
That's right.
You just type "is it possible?"
Yeah, I just did. Is it possible?
The search completion is yes.
You have to see the scientist. This guy's name is Brian Cox, and he is. There's a picture of him in the article.
He's the young British scientist, right?
That's it. And there's a picture of him holding a lady's stiletto heel, and he's holding it to his ear like it's a phone. So we know that he is a little.
So he's like Maxwell Smart.
Yeah.
He's like the Neil deGrasse Tyson of Britain, a little bit younger and white.
Yep, that's right.
Wait, is he a millennial?
he's probably a little.
gray
He's,
hair. There's some
he's
gray
a little
hair.
bit. No, he's probably our age.
Yeah.
Well, maybe younger.
Forget
maybe
that
a
guy.
little younger. Yeah, millennials. What do they do but play League of Legends? Nothing. All they do is own you on League of Legends all day long. What good are they? What do these guys even do? Nothing.
But here's the thing, like, you could travel forward in time fairly easily, right? I mean, because of Einstein's theory of relativity being able to... Well, because you slow down. Like, the faster you go, the faster you approach the speed of light,
Oh, I see. You're talking about, like, the Planet of the Apes scenario,
exactly,
right?
precisely. So but the point is, but you'd never be able to go back. So you'd be able to see things in the future, but would that doesn't really sound that appealing to me.
So there are some scientists in quantum physics that suggest, along the ideas of I think it's string theory, but that the fourth dimension is a kind of like an elastic band, and if they could figure out how to basically punch a wormhole into the fourth dimension, they could select a spot on that band, which is like the timeline of history, and they could go back to it and return from it, basically, like attaching a string to another string, and that's how they could go back and forth. But again, that's all these weird, like, mathematical theories.
Yeah, it's all very theoretical stuff.
Science fiction books, basically, yeah. Well, and then there's all these things, too, like, that it, wouldn't it be dangerous, right? Like, aren't there, like, the grandfather paradox, right? So that's the thing where if you were able to go back in time and you encountered one of your relatives and you killed them or something, right? Would you ever actually be born then? And you could wipe yourself out from history, but then doesn't that mean then if you wipe yourself out from history that you were never left in the first place to come back in time?
We're gonna send you back to the future.
And then there's the whole idea of like the butterfly effect, right? So let's say you go way, way back in time to like, the Jurassic era or something, and you step on a bug. And because you stepped on a single bug, it irrevocably changes the history of the planet.
Because the lizard that was going to eat that bug was the lizard that evolved into something that would evolve into something else that would evolve into man. And that lizard starved because it didn't eat that bug.
Right. So this is the kind of stuff they always bring up in movies. Now, so let's assume because we're never going to answer. There's no answer to this.
Oh, yes, there
time
is.
Travel. Actually, we proved at one point on Taverncast, if you recall, that if you scream into the mic loud enough that you break the time-space continuum and time travel becomes possible. We actually proved it, and it happened.
That is true.
It's on an episode.
That is true.
I think it's a Christmas episode, actually.
Mike didn't listen to that one, though.
All right, so let's assume that time travel is possible and get into some interesting theoretical questions. So let's do backwards time travel first. So traveling back in time. Let's just go around the table here.
Uh-oh.
If you could pick one event in history or one time period, one date, whatever, where would you travel to and why would you go there? Let's start with Jen.
Is this a one-way trip or can we come back?
Ooh.
Let's assume...
This is Mr. Peabody. You're just touring you're touring time, right?
Let's assume you can come back.
Okay.
But that's an interesting point because it would change the answer, I would assume.
Well, yeah.
If it's a one-way trip, you might not go...
if it's a one-way trip, then, like, I'm probably
Better bring some penicillin.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
Well, okay, so wait, that's interesting. So I want to know both because that's interesting. I want to know where would you go if you could come back and why, and where would you go if you couldn't come back? And I guess I don't need to know as much why, but whatever you want to say.
I would go back to the time when before Skynet went
in. I've always been curious about a couple of specific periods of time. One of them being, and everybody's going to groan on this one, but one of them definitely being the Middle Ages. I know that that's kind of like... there's like this part of me that says, "Oh, it's kind of this romantic thing,
You're romanticizing it.
If I were you, I would not go back.
Right, but that's the thing. It's like when you think about it, you're like, maybe the plague time's not the best.
No, they made that. Remember, they made that movie about that timeline.
Yeah,
that didn't work out so well for those people.
And it didn't. And that's I like it. Actually, when I watched that movie, I was like, oh, dude, you probably would have really gotten screwed, like that
literally
poor French guy.
Literally,
but like that poor French guy that shows up in the middle of that war, and the only reason he gets killed is because he's French, and it was.
I have this feeling that the romantic idea of women in that era is not quite what it's cracked up to be.
No,
unless you show up and you happen to be royalty and people buy into it, then maybe.
And even then,
all I got to do is go tell them, hey, this is my castle. If we're going to Germany, I'm good.
hey, I've watched Game of Thrones. Don't end up like Sansa. That's what I'm just saying.
Okay, so why the Middle Ages? Just curiosity?
Yeah, more curiosity. I've just always thought it would be interesting to actually see. I guess I've always wondered, like, how do people actually live? But that brings me to the place that I think that after I've really thought about this, the thing that I really want to do is I want to go back and I want to see the pyramids being built in Egypt.
Oh.
So you can call bullshit.
You'd be like, aliens.
Bullshit. All right.
I want to know how the hell...
That's a laser beam. Come on, you can't have a tractor ray.
Seriously. And then I want to see what else did they have. Like, there had to have been some crazy technology. If we can't replicate that construction to this day with all of our modern technology, we cannot do what they did. I want to know, A, how the hell they did it, and B, what else did they make that we don't have?
They're levitating that 5-ton block with sound waves.
No, I told you, I already think it's magnets.
Yeah,
That's my philosophy.
All right.
I think it's magnets.
So if you could go back and one-way trip, where?
It would be Egypt.
It would be Egypt?
Yeah.
You would go on a one-way trip to Egypt?
Yeah.
Oh
What
my
if you're
gosh.
totally wrong and it's just like the pharaohs and their slave labor dragging that stuff up with ropes and pulleys, and you get drafted into pulling it up with ropes and pulleys?
Do you even know Aramaic?
In Egypt.
Yeah, but I'll be a redhead with blue eyes in Egypt. Hello.
Oh, so you'd be stoned.
No. So she's playing the God small G
Hey,
card.
thank you.
She's like, I am Zul. Worship me. I am Amat Ra. All right, moaning.
I keep trying to think what would be good to go back to. So you want to go back to Woodstock? That might be kind of fun. How about this?
remember
I'm
it.
going to go back to last week with the knowledge.
You go to wait a minute. In all the history of mankind, you go to a rock concert.
or last week.
I'm gonna go last week because I know what the lotto numbers are from last week, and that's what I'm gonna bet on.
That's fair.
Game the
That's
system.
fair. All right. So what if you had a one-way trip? Is it just last week?
Well, yeah,
Do you,
definitely.
like both you do last week both times,
And then I'm gonna be like telling people what they're gonna do, and they'd be like freaked out, and it'd be
It's
hilarious.
such a Mike answer. It's like he's all of history in front of him. He's like, dude, I'd go back last week
Dude, I
and like
can't
win
go
the
beyond
lotto.
the computer age.
was
What
it-
am I gonna do?
But was it a big lottery jackpot last week?
There's like $1 billion one in New York.
Oh.
All right, so Jen would become a small G god in Egypt. Mike would go back to last week. What are you gonna do, Bill?
Jeez, I don't know, man. That there's so many great moments in history, right? Like you'd want to either go observe. The question then is you have to decide, do you just want to be an observer or do you want to try to change history? Do you want to go back and like try to kill Hitler, or do you want to try to like save John Lennon, for Mike's rock and roll fantasy? Or do you want to there's so many things you could try to do. Or do you want to see the birth of Christ? Or do you want to be there with the apostles when Christ is later in his life, or witness the resurrection?
It's one way. You gotta live back
He
then now.
can go. Remember, it's
all right.
Yeah. So give us your you can go and come back answer. We're tired of this. It's tough. It was tough for Mike too, but he went back a whole week. So let's get with it.
I would definitely go back for the birth of Christ, right? That's sort of like gotta be regardless of your religion. That is a significant moment in the history of the world, right? The number of people's lives that event has changed, continues to change. 2,000 years later, it's so incredibly significant. And if you are religious, that's probably the pinnacle of everything, right? That's just such a super huge event. That would definitely work for
How
me.
about going back to Adam and Eve? That's pretty big.
Yeah, but they were assholes.
Wait.
All right, so do your one-way trip then.
My one-way trip is I would go back in time and hang out with Ben Franklin. That dude was awesome. In terms of just being a scholar, an inventor, and living life to its. The guy got gout, for God's sakes, right? And I'm talking he went to France and he did just. He saw amazing thing, birth of the nation, shaped the form of the nation, and I would want to go back in time to pal around with Benjamin Franklin.
Yeah, so that's one aspect of Ben Franklin. The other aspect of Ben Franklin is he was like a crazy libertine. So not only you wouldn't just go to Paris to talk to the philosophers, you would be like drunk and in orgies and in like crazy smoking rooms.
What if he didn't like you? What if he was like, dude, you're a goody two shoes. Get out of here.
I'm sorry, he wouldn't like me. I'm not following what you're saying. What do you?
How is that possible?
Put the big goofy head back on. That's funny.
All right, so for mine, if it was a two-way trip, I would want to go to about March 10th, 33 AD.
Martin Luther King?
About the week or so before Passover in 33 AD, because I want to see the death of Christ.
Oh.
I don't want to see the birth. I want to see the death.
You're such a downer.
A downer. I want to see the end of those events to forever put to bed any doubt on that issue.
So you're gonna like stake out the tomb.
He's gonna be one of the three.
Theoretically, I wouldn't have to do it longer than 3 days, right?
Yep.
Yeah. Right. So that to
people
me,
have camped out longer for Star Wars. Okay, let's not get crazy.
It's true. Yeah. If there's a seminal moment in history, that is it for me. Now, Mike just said Adam and Eve. That actually is
Think about that.
somewhat compelling.
God'd be like, Adam, who the are you?
Hi, I'm Bryce. Oh, wait a minute.
So if it was a one-way trip, I don't know when, but I have this feeling that I would like the 50s. So I think I would go back to the 50s.
Woodstock.
With 50s,
yeah, leave it to Beaver
50s as like 50s as a young kid, like elementary school age.
What you doing, Beav?
That way,
burning rope down.
Yeah, right. That way, I lived through all the golden age of America. I miss Korea and the Vietnam War, and I get to live through all the best stuff and never have to go, to anywhere bad.
And you'd be in Mad Men. You'd be doing the same thing in Mad Men.
Which would be awesome. Which would be all good music, good suits, good-looking women. What's wrong with this?
I don't know.
I'm just saying.
You have a wife. Are you sure?
Not in the 50s. All right. Still staying in the past. Bill, you brought this up. If you could go back in time and erase a person or kill a person or whole people groups or a single event.
Whole people groups. I would wipe out entire groups of people.
And this is assuming then that you would go to a point where, genocide is not really the factor. It's more like, like a racial ancestor or somebody, right? Right? So you wipe all this stuff out from history. What would it be? What would you expect the outcome of your actions to be? What would you hope for? Why would you do it? Would you do it? Bill, you start.
I mean, obviously, you take your great or your well-known horrible characters of history, right? Hitler probably being the first and foremost in modern history. And you go back and you wipe him out, and it's questionable whether if you assassinated Hitler, whether someone else would rise to take his place and then commit the same atrocities that he did.
Or be worse.
Yeah, so maybe you'd have to take out
Yeah, can you imagine Heinrich Himmler running?
Right, you'd have to take out Himmler,
Nazis?
You'd have to take out Hitler, you'd have to take out his whole group of guys, right? So maybe you take out him and all of his lieutenants. So that's probably maybe 1,000 people? 1,001 people? Sort of horrible to think about.
Assuming you could even do that.
Assuming you could do that, have the heart to go and, the needs of the many, right? You kill 1,001 Germans and to avoid sort of World War II. And,
All right, so you would do the typical stop the rise of Nazi Germany and prevent World War II.
I would focus on that, but I'm not sure if I would have the heart to do it.
Okay, Jen, what do you got?
See, this one's actually really tough for me because I'm one of those people that feels like everything happens for a reason. And so it's hard for me to sit there and say there's anything that I would necessarily change. I even think about, we talk about, if you can go back to a different time and change anything in your life, what would you do? And I'm like, I feel like if I changed something, then I might not end up where I'm at, and I actually really like where I'm at. So if I go back and change something in the past, who knows what other people I would affect. And then, taking out Hitler, it sounds like it's a good idea, and I'm not saying that it's not a good idea, but there's a lot of other things that have happened between now and then. What else might not have happened? I mean, so you have World War II, and it was a horrible experience, but from World War II, there were so many amazing bits of technology that have come out that we embrace nowadays. Like, we watched that movie about the guy that did the code breaking machine.
The Imitation Game.
Yeah, the Imitation Game. And I mean, he essentially created the basis for computing. I mean, like, he actually was one of the first...
This was Turing, by the way.
So what you're saying is if they didn't have Hitler, then Benedict Cumberbatch would be out of a job.
Exactly. And that would be horrible. I love him.
All right, Mike?
Yeah, if I were going to go back and erase something, I wouldn't... I think the Nazis committed, incredible atrocities against huge numbers of people, and it seems like that's an obvious choice to just say, hey, yeah, we're not going to let that happen.
But what about, like, Genghis Khan?
Yeah, I mean, you could pick any number of different genocidal type things. You can go to Hitler. Hitler's an obvious one that's close to our lifetime. There's obviously there's Genghis Khan. There's
Napoleon Bonaparte.
And there's a
Julius Caesar.
There's a number of genocide. Like, what about the genocides that's happening even today in Africa and stuff like that? You could erase all that stuff. It'd be tough to pick one. Hitler's obviously the most obvious one, but it would probably be something like that.
See, and for me, I'm listening to all you guys say this, and I mean, I'd probably come up with things that are just as obvious, but I would probably not do it. Just because the ramifications for removing something like that from the timeline without knowing what it would do seems potentially more treacherous than just letting it play out, regardless of how bad it was. Right? I literally think about
how do you tell that to those people?
Well, you can't. That's a good question.
Right?
So here's the thing: from a rational perspective, I think Bryce, you're right. But as soon as it becomes personal, it becomes emotional.
No, I get it.
Right.
Right, and if
I just think about, like, you brought up the thing, like, well, if you took out Hitler, you'd have to take out his lieutenant. So I think, let's say you could only take out one. You took out Hitler. Now you have, let's say, Himmler rises up to be in charge. Heinrich Himmler is a completely different dude than Adolf was, from the standpoint of Himmler may have been a lot more cautious and a lot less blatantly aggressive in his military tactics.
Charismatic.
Yeah, I get that, but the thing is that if he was pretty charismatic. If he
not the lead of people, though.
Not as much as Hitler was, no. But the point is that had he been able to, if the Nazi regime was already going by the time you pull Hitler off, if Himmler took over, Himmler may have waited on attacking the Soviets, and if anyone had done that, we all might be speaking German at this point, because it was the Russians that beat him. He attacked the Soviets, and the Soviets beat him.
Well, here's the other aspect.
Off more than he could chew.
The other aspect of this is actually taking somebody out before they've committed the crime. So we know in retrospect, right? That's the part of this. We know in history what happened, but now if you're actually taking out the ones that were likely to succeed Hitler and commit similar atrocities, they haven't committed any crime yet. Why not just?
Well, there was that
you
that
could
old,
kill them when they're children.
Pre-crime. Yeah.
Pre-crime. Yeah, Minority Report.
Right.
So what about instead of killing someone, maybe just doing something that changes their life?
You just cut off a couple of arms, a couple of toes, maybe.
No, she's
you just go in, you rough over, you say, hey.
Like Hitler wanted to be an artist, right? What if you showed him compassion and gave him an art studio?
You just cut out his tongue.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. You go in there, you just hobble the guy. You say, look here, Adolphe. I don't know what, you kind of beat him up a little bit. You say, look at that haircut you got. You don't need that haircut's stupid. And you just punch him in the face a couple of times. Break his kneecaps.
I think you misunderstand Hitler in his role in history if you think that more abuse would have helped.
What if you got hey, what's the deal with that little mustache you got there, fella? Why don't you just shave that thing off, right? What if I'm gonna shave that thing off and punch you in the mouth.
All right. So we're still back in time, real quick. If you could go back and you could safely interact with yourself in the past, Jen, you just brought this up. Mm-hmm. Would you interact with yourself?
Oh, hell yeah.
Hell yes? Okay, Mike, you go first. What would you say? What would you do? You can come back. You get like an hour to interact with yourself. What do you do? Where do you go? What era?
What age?
You pick.
I mean, you can think of the things that you feel like your biggest mistakes through your life, and you might want to coach yourself to do something different. I can think of mistakes at any era, any age.
Coming onto this show,
Yeah, that might be being nice to Bill. That's definitely I would coach myself against.
Still not working well for you.
Doing that rap battle.
No, that
was good.
That rap battle, you won that rap battle.
Absolutely. Sorry, Bill.
And that we're not talking about you either, Bill.
That's quite all right.
Mike had that Detroit sort of vibe with him. He had a little Eminem in the mix there.
That and the beeve.
All right, Bill, would you?
Yeah, I mean, you always wish that you could go back in time and give the piece of it, because who knows you better than you? Right? Like, I raise my kids like they're me, but they're not me. And so I make mistakes. So I end up telling them things that I would have wanted to hear, but they don't really want to hear. And you do your best and you make mistakes by doing that. And you try to get into their head a little bit more, but it's very difficult. But if I had actually me, like a young me that I could go back in time and give advice to, I would hope that the young me would have sense enough to listen to me. And, I think I probably would, because there'd be like this older version of me, and I'd be like, hey, I still have some hair. That's all right. But but generally, I think how invaluable, just to actually give yourself, not necessarily winning lotto numbers or specific advice on like who to date and who not to date and who to avoid, but more like everything's going to be okay. You don't get stressed out. Don't obsess. It's going to work out for you.
Your younger self would never listen.
Never. But I wish I could impart that knowledge to a very young, nervous, anxiety strung out, middle schooler and say, look, it's going to be all right.
One day there'll be League of Legends, and you'll have a chance to win $1 million.
That's it.
And I hear next year 2 giant robots are going to fight.
All right, Jen. You kind of already said it.
It's hard because there's this part of me that sits there and says, like I said before, I kind of like where my life is. So if I changed anything, I probably wouldn't be here. But having said that, if I decided to make the decision to say, okay, I want to see what else could have happened, I might go back. And yeah, there's definitely, I think I probably would have gone back to myself probably late middle school, early high school, and because I was really focused on a lot of stuff.
Been like, don't have that hairstyle. Don't wear those stirrup pants.
No, the stirrup
Stop
pants were
listening
not that
to New Kids on the Block.
Wait, sorry, did you say stirrup pants?
I never. Yes, I did wear stirrup pants. I did not listen to New Kids. No, there would be things that I would say, okay, keep the focus, but shift it to this particular thing. Like, I always knew at the time that I was like, oh, I want to be in the movies. I want to make movies. But I was very vague on what it was. And so now, having the knowledge that I have, I could be like, you know what? This is what you're going to enjoy. This is what you're really going to like, having actually tried it, and then see what would have happened if I'd gone at it a decade or two earlier than I did. Like, having an extra 10 years to put effort into what I was doing, like, where would it have gone? What would I have done with it?
For the reasons you just gave, like that you could potentially go back and alter the course of your life just to see what would have happened if you would have made different choices, like the previous question, I would not do it. Because though there have been things in my life that I don't like, I would be too concerned that by trying to ward myself off of the things that happened that I didn't like, that I would actually end up making things worse. And for that reason alone, I would not do it. I would not even go back. I would not even want to see myself on the off chance I would change anything at all.
Marty!
Yeah, right. Yeah. I'm disappearing from the photo. All right, so we got to move on. Forward time travel, going into the future. This is a little bit different one. Would you risk doing it? Where would you go? And why would you go there? It's a little bit more amorphous, right? Because you don't know where you're going. You might not know why, but there's always reasons to maybe go. But how far would you go? Do you have a target? Would you even want to do it?
I think an important part of this question is whether you can come back. This is even
same. Let's just go. Yes, you can come back, and we won't do the you can go and never come back because probably no one's going to agree to do that. So
I would. I mean, I've got 3 kids. Screw them. I'm out. How can I get away? Sorry, kids. Daddy's going away. A very long way away.
This Taverncast is not meant for children, especially 3 individual children.
Bill's children.
Yeah. All right. So, do you have an answer for it? If you could come back, you could go and come back. What would you do?
Oh, you gotta go. You gotta go beyond your years, right? You want to see where we end up, mankind. I mean, technology is...
I don't know that I want to know that, actually.
Really? I mean, I would be very interested to see what happens to, the world powers. When do we get into space? Because, hopefully that's inevitable.
You could get into space real quick if you happen to go too far and all of a sudden you're just in space.
Yeah, right.
Where's the Earth?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to go like 1,000 years into the future, right? Because then it's like a completely different society. It's not even... It would be so ultra different than what it is now. I think you'd only really need to go, say, for example, 200 years into the future, and man would still be recognizable, the language would still be recognizable, and you would know where things go. Like, where are we? Did we survive? Did we make it? How far are we out? Or did we wipe each other? Or is everybody just gone?
I could see that. I could see actually even bringing that in a little tighter and saying like 100 years into the future.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking maybe, what's that, 2 generations, a generation out, and it'd be really interesting to see and bring back pictures of what the Earth looks like to show people and say, dude, time stamped, it's right there. Look at the time on the camera. And maybe we need to stop doing some of the things we're doing. And maybe we can change it now. Maybe we can affect, because we know that information, we can actually change.
So are you saying,
or I just get thrown in an insane asylum at that point?
I was going to say, are you seriously saying, though, that, like, your goal would almost be somewhat altruistic? Like, you would want to go and see what happened and then come back and, like, almost be like an evangelist for change based on what you'd seen? Like, you'd be that guy?
I mean, yeah, I got a daughter. I don't want her to...
It's interesting.
It'd be Nostramicus.
Yeah,
right.
But I mean, it would have to be like some planned thing where everybody be like, okay, yeah, you really did go, and this is what he really did come back. It can't be like in my basement.
Right. Otherwise, there's guys like that right now. For all we know, they have gone into the future.
I ran into a couple of those guys on the street today. Yeah.
All right, Jen.
Well, kind of going back to what Mike was saying before, what's the lotto jackpot this next weekend? Because I could just go to Saturday and come back. And
That's the
next question. Yeah, I think everyone's going to answer it that way. But go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I would probably be interested in going forward. I don't know that I would want to go too far, like Bill had said, because things might be completely unrecognizable. But then there's things like... Right. But what would happen to you? Would you be able to actually make it back in that kind of scenario? But I think if you went 100 years, maybe 200 years into the future, so you could kind of see where things were headed, I think that would be interesting. I think that it would be informative, and then maybe we'd go out there and find out.
Jokes you could play on people too. You come back with like Photoshop pictures of like Skynet, and you're like, oh my god!
But the thing is,
Mike goes into the future, and all I can think about is pranking people.
But I mean, what happens if we go out there and it's like, oh hey, we figured this out. Look, everything's actually fine. What? Okay.
So then the question would be
clean energy, or and it happens 10 years from now, but I jumped 150 years too far.
Say you did that and you jumped, and then you're able to bring back something which then changed it, so you're in this loop of like, oh, it's actually got fixed because somebody went in the future and came back and fixed it. I don't know how that works.
You know what would be cool? If going in time...
I need a DeLorean!
The thing about going that far in the future, going 100 or 200 years in the future, is that you'd find the thing that we haven't imagined yet. So much of the technology that we have nowadays seems like it's stuff that was imagined like in the 80s or the 70s or even the 60s, but no one really imagined the internet. The internet is sort of like an unusual, like we've got, look at all kinds of pop culture throughout the years, and it's almost like science has followed pop culture. I think we talked about that on a prior show once. But
this reminds me of there's this documentary I saw about these guys that have this radioactive waste dump in, it was like Finland or one of these Norwegian countries, and the whole documentary was about not so much what they were they were storing the nuclear waste and all that stuff, but about how they were going to communicate that was a nuclear waste dump to people who might come across it at the half-life point, which could be like 10,000 years into the future. How would they communicate that this place was bad? And they were talking to all these experts about like the future could be so radically different from anything we can imagine. There could be various catastrophes that could change things. There could be positive changes that change things. The languages would be completely different, just even based on like syntax and slang and things like that. You would have no idea what anybody's saying.
Even if there was a
they
language.
were like, they were like, how do you communicate to people who need to know this is dangerous? So they tried everything from like word pictograms to, like different signs and whatever, and what would actually withstand the test of time. And they decided on top
They'd
of
write
this thing,
a song.
No. They built
a snake in a can.
They built these monolithic carbon tube reinforced concrete like thorns, like a thorn forest, right? That looks just threatening and creepy. And with the idea that people from the future would associate that with danger, that they would look at that as like it's maybe some mystical forest, like if society like totally collapsed and we were back in like the Dark Ages.
They didn't want to make some giant heads that all face towards like a circle.
Did you know that those are not actually just heads?
Yeah. Did you see that? He's talking about the Moai on Easter Island.
How did they not figure that out?
Full bodies.
Yeah,
what are they?
They're full bodies.
They have bodies.
It goes in the ground.
They buried the whole body. And they buried the
have
whole
full
bodies,
bodies.
and there's writing on them that they've never seen before. They're trying to figure out what the writing is.
How did they not realize this until now? I mean, haven't people been studying those damn things?
Science.
Nobody's excavated.
I just saw a picture today of them like tipping one out where they had it almost all the way down to the feet. It was like 100 feet tall, and they've got all over the torso of this thing is some weird like Paleolithic writing.
Oh, look, we've got some heads sitting here. What a phenomenon. We can make it into a tourist attraction. Don't anybody touch it. Don't get close to it. They're heads. They're just heads sitting around. What an amusing... We'll call it Easter Island.
You know what it says in the writing? Don't go any further in the future. So I think the future travel is interesting because it plays on sort of a human concept of we're all a little bit afraid of the unknown, right? That's why going to the past is a little bit easier because though there's places you probably wouldn't go, the future's hard because you really don't know what you're going to expect. And for my answer, though, I think, strangely enough, I think that as long as I could come back and I did the proper precautions, like I wore some kind of crazy spacesuit with like lava armor and
remember to be safe.
I don't know, some super suit.
Riding my Tyrannosaurus Rex.
I would want to like go. I would want to go way forward, like 10,000 years forward.
So
really?
Where would you go?
I don't know, but that's what I'm curious about.
Yeah, but
like,
go
there
back.
It'd be like all just ocean, and you'd be like, oh shit.
Well, yeah, but as long as
would
you
be
like turn around, really, that's why you wear the suit.
Yeah, but humanity.
So that as you're sinking in the forever ocean, then you're like, okay, portal out, portal out.
But what would you learn 10,000 years? Humanity would be unrecognizable, just like it was 10,000 years ago.
Can you go forward and be invisible? Because then you could just observe everything.
Now you're just changing the rules.
Now you want to... Oh, that's
you go
absurd.
forward.
Being invisible is just ridiculous.
It's just dumb. It's just dumb.
What a horror... Oh, way to ruin it, Jen. Thanks.
You gotta stop at 1,000 years to get the invisibility stuff, and then you can jump another 9,000.
Okay.
All right, so wait, so we have to get close to wrapping this up because we're just over our hour time limit. If you did go into the future, 10 years into the future, and you could only make one Google search.
It says 2.
I know, I'm changing it in lieu of time.
Gotta roll with it.
If you could go, yeah, Jennifer, learn to cast. If you went 10 years into the future and you could make two... Oh my God, now I'm reading it. If you went 10 years into the future and you could make only one Google search before coming back, what would that search be? 10 years in the future, you can come right back, you can make one search. What do you search for?
I would do a search. Is it possible? And then the first thing would come up. Is it possible to not have a Bush or a Clinton in the White House? That would be one.
And the answer would be no. Choose one.
I would one Google search. I would look up what is. Oh, it's got to be phrased in a search, doesn't it? That's kind of the thing here.
No, I mean you can just like type in winning lotto numbers.
I mean you could do that.
2016,
definitely.
Right?
But
yeah.
I would do like what's the 10 years from now? What is everybody what are the startups that everybody's doing? What's the
what are people
technology? Like,
investing
what would
in?
be really interesting to start 10 years earlier and be ahead of the curve? And
Thought about that.
Yeah.
I thought about that with stuff like, what if you could go back to like 1965 with all the knowledge of like the Star Wars
With your
franchise.
iPhone?
Yeah, and then like go make Star Wars. But the question there is, it's one of those things again. Could you do it right? See, this is why lotto numbers are safer. You just get the numbers, you play the numbers, you win.
I think you would be. I think you would be sorely disappointed because I just looked up now. What are the startups that everyone is doing, and why?
No, I wouldn't. I wouldn't do that as my search.
I see.
I'd have to figure out exactly what the search would be, but essentially, I'd want to know what's hot. What.
So, but you're only going 10 years.
Okay, so I just looked up what's hot. The answer is hot. Having a high degree of heat or high temperature.
I would actually look and see what in 10 years is a thriving business.
It's like a genie.
That started within that last 10 years and then come back.
All right,
and
so what's your
invest.
specific search? Because Bill's going to run it right now.
Yeah, because Bill's just being a complete jerk.
It's like the genie. You have to be. It's a Google search.
I Google for more Googles.
But you only get.
I'm telling you. I'm telling you.
Google for more Googles.
Largest winning lotto payout 2016.
And it'll say 2012. And you're fucked.
You're just being greedy.
Yeah, because you only get one question, and then it's like you're immediately whisked back. You're like, 2012, no! All right, do you guys think we're already being visited by time travelers? Possible? Are we already being visited by time travelers?
Well, how would we know?
That's probably the answer.
Yeah, all those. Look at everybody who wins on Wall
Mike,
Street.
look it.
Totally time
It's like
travel. Think about this.
Totally time travel. Unless you're Martha Stewart.
Yes, we have been visited by time travelers. They're called billionaires.
Yes, exactly. They won the lotto.
Oh, God, that's a great story. Think about that as a story. The elite, like uber elite bankers and business people of the
They're all
world
really just
are all
time
time
travelers.
travelers. And they're
They did it in
manipulating
their basements.
Yeah, they're manipulating
They didn't tell
history.
anyone.
Either that or think about this. Maybe they are space tourists, and this is like a big sim thing. They can be in charge and in control with all the money.
Oh, and so the whole, online sometimes you see the thing. I don't know if any of you have seen this, but on YouTube it's like a big thing where
This is your
the elites
homepage.
the presidents, the president, and everybody else. They're all reptilian aliens. They're shapeshifters. It's the stupidest.
Bryce, are you a moderator
No.
on that?
Right. Yes, no, I am. But it is the reptilian guys. They're the space tourists, and they're coming to a planet that no one cares about
It's like Safari.
to play it like a
Right.
Sims game.
Exactly.
That's beautiful, Mike. I'm gonna write that book.
Well done. Well done.
That's a good book.
Who can say where the road goes, where the day flows, only time? And who can say if your love grows as your heart shows, only time?
So that's been TC62. We have officially determined that time travel.
I thought
is
Mike was
real,
gonna wrap it up.
and he's gonna in a second.
see.
That's in the
We're
future.
gonna go back in the past
No,
and have him redo
Right,
it.
Mike is in the future. I'm in the present. Jen will go back to the past, retrieve Mike, and he will come onto the show without knowing we've already done most of the close, and then do it his way.
Wow.
So that's been TC62. We've covered that time travel is official, and that it's the reptilians that are coming here using time travel to control the human race and to play it like a live Sims game, because that seems most plausible. So
That's what- I know, but
no, you're not
that's
here.
essentially
You're not
what
here.
I'm doing. I'm just controlling the show. Just
Why are
for
you
fun.
here? You're not here.
Wait, I
yet.
thought I was here now.
You were in the future.
No, I guess no. He is
You
here.
moved
No,
into
we
the
have to go
future.
back.
There's a paradox. Mike is already here.
There's the very fabric of the
Go
time
get Mike. There'll be two
continue.
Mikes. If you like the show, please review us on iTunes, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe to us on YouTube. And, of course, share the show with your nearest and dearest, or share the really bad ones with your worst enemy. See you next
that's so
time.
witty.
Don't have to go home, but you can't stay here.
Good night, everybody. Thanks.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Taverncast is performed in a closed recording studio by trained professionals. Do not attempt this show at home. Taverncast does not endorse underage drinking and reminds those of you who are of age to have fun and drink responsibly. Taverncast is a Snapdragon production. Visit us online at www.taverncast.com.
Merry Christmas. We're drinking out of Christmas glasses tonight.
Wow. Lighting up like a Christmas tree. Boy, you guys are really trying to piss off Mike.
Yeah.
All right, remember, if you like the show, please review us on iTunes, like us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, and subscribe to us on YouTube. And, of course, share it with the show your nearest and dearest, or share...
Boy, none of this sounds like you're reading it.
Huh?
None of it sounds like you're reading it.
Let me try it again.
And here, let me try.
It's weird. It's weird that there's a different verb for each website. Review. So iTunes has reviews, Facebook has likes, Twitter has followers, and YouTube has subscribers.
God, you guys are all such amateurs. If you could go back in time and not do this show, would you?